Yeah, everything I've heard, it has been well received. Certainly inside the organization, they're excited, but people I've spoken to outside the organization seem to like the guy and seem to think that he has as good a chance as any, first-time GM of building a winner. Obviously, he's very smart. He's an Ivy Leaguer. He's got an analytics background, which was really critical for him in terms of landing the job. But the other thing that I like about him is that he's not just some geeky numbers guy that's been in the back room of a cubicle just kind of going over spreadsheets and coming up for new sabermetric type of stats to build a team. He also listens to his scouts, hears what they have to say, and kind of takes a well-balanced approach to his decision-making. Jerry DiPoto, one of the reasons he resigned as GM of the Angels, where Matt Klentak came from this summer, is because he didn't get along with Mike Scioscia and the coaching staff because he was too numbers oriented. From everything I've heard is that Klentak, after DiPoto left, got along great with the manager, the coaching staff, the players. So he's a guy that can kind of get along with everybody, and take all that information and then use all that information to make the best decision possible. And that's the thing that I think is going to be good, because you don't want a guy that's just a scouting guy, and you don't want a guy that's just a numbers guy. You want somebody that's going to take all those things together and then make a good decision.
I guess I asked that question too because, as you mentioned, he was in Anaheim. They had a chance to elevate him, and he didn't get that job.
Right, he didn't get that job. I think sometimes, for instance, certainly this time around, because the Phillies are struggling, they weren't going to hire anybody internally to be the new GM. Sometimes owners, presidents just want to go outside the organization. But when Andy MacPhail, that news first broke in June, that Andy MacPhail was going to be the new Phillies president, I had two different people tell me, keep an eye on Matt Klentak. He is going to hire him. If Ruben's fired, he's going to hire Matt Klentak. So obviously Andy MacPhail really thought a lot of him from their time together in Baltimore. And like I said, a lot of people I've talked to seem to really think that he's just as capable as anybody else of turning this organization around.
Is Scott Profrock still with the team?
Yeah, he is. He's still the assistant general manager. He's still involved in contract negotiations, that type of thing. But yeah, he's still around.
All right, Todd Zolecki is with us, MLB.com. A couple of reports out there concerning Ken Giles. Now, it's an interesting one because he's 25 years old, and you would say, well, all right, well, in 2017, when they hope to be better, he would be right in the middle of his prime. You have that guy. Is he a name that the Phillies would be willing to move?
I think so, for the right price. And this is another thing that Matt Klentak has said over the first couple of weeks. I don't speak in absolutes, so I will never say never to anything. You've heard in the past Phillies say, we have guys we won't trade, this and that, things we will consider, things we won't consider. Matt Klentak says, listen, I'm not going to say no to anything. So certainly if a contending team comes around and says, hey, we really need a closer, a young, controllable closer, it's only got about a year's worth of service time, how about we send you this package of prospects for him? I think it could make some sense. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do it. Klentak said that it's not a goal of theirs. He sees value in having a young, controllable closer for the next 4, 5, 6 years. But it's certainly, I think, something that he's going to listen to. And if a team makes a big enough deal, personally, I think go for it. You don't need a closer right now. And closers can be kind of developed in the minor leagues. It seems like nowadays a lot of guys throw 95 plus and even touch 100. They got a guy that throws 100 in the Ben Revere trade from Toronto. So if you can get something for Ken Giles, I would definitely explore it.
What do you anticipate Klentak's vision of Ryan Howard and Carlos Ruiz will be?
Well, he's saying all the right things right now, saying, listen, these guys have meant a lot to the city, to the organization. They're veterans. They're under contract. If they're here next year, they definitely have a spot on the team, and they can fit into this roster as we move forward. He's saying all the right things there. You don't want to disrespect these guys as the new GM, take a dump on Howard and Carlos Ruiz. But I personally believe that he would very much like to, and the organization would like to move on from Ryan Howard. Now, Carlos Ruiz is making $8.5 million. You have a couple top catching prospects coming through the system, but they're not ready yet. So why not have Carlos Ruiz be the backup this year, next season, to Cameron Rupp, maybe mentor Jorge Alfaro and Andrew Knapp a little bit in spring training. He's got some value. Ryan Howard, though, I think, personally, I just think it'd be best to part ways. I think Ryan Howard would like a change of scenery. I think the Phillies would like a change of scenery. But the problem is that they tried to trade him for over a year, and especially late this season, before the July 31st and the August 31st trade deadlines, and they couldn't get a taker for him, despite the fact that they were willing to eat almost all of his contracts. So, are they going to be willing to release him and just move forward that way? That'll be interesting to see.
Todd Zolecki's with us. Jake Thompson, Eichhoff, Adam Morgan, some of these younger guys. How do you anticipate spring training looking at the starting pitching? Do you think they'll do something similar to what they did last year, where they got Billingsley and Harang, brought in some older stopgap guys, or do you think it's going to be open competition with some of those younger names that they got in these deals?
Well, certainly will be an open competition. I think right now going into camp, you don't want to say anybody is a quote-unquote lock, but I would say Aaron Nola is about as close to the lock as you can get. Jared Eichhoff is a pretty good bet to make the rotation. Adam Morgan might be the number 3 guy on that list. And then you have David Buchanan, Alec Asher. Miguel Alfredo Gonzalez is still under contract, even though he's been a huge bust so far. I think they have to go out and they have to sign at least a couple veteran pitchers. Now, it's not going to be Zach Greinke, those types of guys, those top-tier free agents. I think they want guys, though, that can simply pitch 6-7 innings on any given night and give this team a chance to win. So guys may be looking for bounce-back years, somebody like Doug Fister, an innings eater, just on a one-year deal like a Bartolo Colon type of guy. Jay Happ, a former Phillies pitcher who's pitched pretty well last year in Seattle. I mean, those types of guys that can give them 6 innings and at least give the offense the feeling that it has a shot to win. Not guys that are going to turn the organization around, not guys that are going to be there in 2-3 years when the team hopes to be in the postseason again, but guys that can kind of help them bridge that gap and hopefully be better than what Aaron Harang and Jerome Williams and Chad Billingsley were last year.
What are some of the things, this team doesn't expect to contend this year, but what are some of the checklists that Clint Tech wants to achieve in this first offseason?
I think he would just like to improve the organizational depth as much as possible, and it's probably not going to happen long-term on the free agent market. I don't see them going out and signing anybody to 5, 6, 7-year deals and committing a ton of money right now. But if they can acquire some talent in the Rule 5 draft, I think they're going to try to do that. If they can maybe make some trades to bring in more talent in the system. That's kind of where Ken Giles comes in. Maybe somebody like Cody Ashley comes in. I think that's what he's trying to do overall, improve the organizational depth. They're going to have the number 1 pick in next year's draft. That's going to be huge. They have the largest international signing bonus pool out there, so they're going to be really aggressive on the international market. So, and obviously just continue to have some of these younger players continue to develop. You want to see Michael Franco take another step forward. You want to see Aaron Nola continue to improve. Jared Eichhoff. You want to see some of these minor leaguers they've gotten in some of these trades, Jake Thompson, Nick Williams, Jorge Alfaro, continue to develop.
Todd Zolecki's with us here, and of those young guys, of the guys that came over in the Hamels deal, the Revere deal, all these pieces that Ruben Amaro Jr. went out and got, who do you think makes the biggest impact on the Major League roster next year?
Boy, next year, I guess I would say at this point in time, the way he kind of came on, Nick Williams, the outfielder they got from the Rangers, when that trade went down that night, I believe the Phillies were in Toronto. I remember kind of being outside the clubhouse and having talking to somebody and saying the Phillies are really excited to get Nick Williams. That's the guy that, Jake Thompson's going to get a lot of attention because he's a top prospect, but they were really excited to get Nick Williams. He played really well this year in Double-A. I would expect he would start the season in Triple-A, but looking at how the Phillies' outfield is right now, not a lot of Odubel Herrera, he's your opening day center fielder. There's a lot of question marks on the corners. If Nick Williams plays well this year, in AAA, starts the season well in AAA, I could see him up before the trade deadline.
Interesting. And you got Altera, who played pretty well in the call-up last year. Sweeney came over in the Utley deal, so there should be at least competition. And, of course, we know the Don Brown era has closed, so I guess they don't feel compelled to have to try to get him out there. That opens up a lot of competition at spring training.
Yeah, it does. Altera, I think, is a guy that really intrigues them. I don't know if they're totally sold on him yet as being an everyday piece, and that's the benefit of getting rid of Dominic Brown finally, is you don't have to kind of go through that charade of, well, we need to see what he can do. He's gone, so now they can give Altera a longer look. And they're going to try to re-sign Jeff Francoeur, another veteran outfielder, kind of stabilize that outfield because they don't have much depth. But there's definitely going to be opportunities, I think, for some guys to say, hey, I'm worth playing every day, or you know what, it's time to move on for me. I think Cody Ashley comes to mind. This is going to be a big year for him. He's got to get off to a good start, otherwise he could get passed up real quick. All
right, good stuff, Todd Zolecki. The GM meetings, and then next week you got the winter meetings that open up. We'll see what Matt Klintak's got up his sleeve, and Maikel Franco will be in his second year. Crawford, maybe a midseason guy. Is that too aggressive?
No, I think that's absolutely a possibility. You would expect that he would start the season in AAA. Or be in AAA very, very quickly. And if he continues to play well, I don't think there's going to be any reason to hold him back. I don't see them having him play an entire season in AAA, hitting 330 for whatever. If he's playing well, I see them moving up, and that maybe Freddie Galvis becomes a second baseman. Whoever is playing the best. So I like the fact that they're kind of starting to get some talent moving up, and there's going to be some competition, and they have some versatility. So if Crawford comes up, they can move Galvis over. They could, or whatever the case may be. But things are getting better slowly but surely.
No doubt, and we'll see what their first move will be. Matt Klintak, he'll be with me next week on the show. Todd Zolecki, MLB.com for more on the Phillies all season. Thanks, Zoe.
Thanks.